According to my clock here, it is noon, so welcome to our webinar today presented by Core Cubed. We're going to talk today about integrating public relations with internet marketing and talk about the strategy behind that and how it differs from advertising, because there are lots of times when people misuse words and don't really understand which type of method to use when you want to accomplish results. So my name is Marilee Orsini, and I am the Managing Director of Core Cubed, and we have found that by educating about marketing and strategy, it really does make a much better playing field for everyone. And so I want to thank you so much for attending today. This is a busy time for everyone, I know, and so I really appreciate your time, and I am hoping that that you enjoy this webinar today. The first thing, I've just made Jenny Burkett our presenter, and before we get to Jenny, can you go back please to the overview, which is right here? Thanks so much. We're going to talk today about public relations versus advertising and marketing, so to get a real good handle on what that means, and then public relations and marketing and how they work hand in hand, and then some specific tools for public relations. And then we have a lot of questions when public relations work is done for someone, as in when the story will be published, if there is a good story, and we hope it will be published. Jenny will talk about newsworthiness and campaign types, and if a reporter calls, what to do, and also talk about measuring the value of editorial coverage. Before I introduce Jenny, let me just mention that we have everyone in mute mode so that we can hear okay today. And if you have a question, we'd love to get it. And what I need you to do is look on the right-hand side of your screen, and you can type in a question, and we will answer questions either at the end of the webinar or in the middle of the webinar if something comes up that's a burning question. So Jenny, if you would maximize your screen, please, that would be good. So all we see is just your PowerPoint. And let me talk a little bit about Jenny. Jenny really comes to us with a lot of experience. She's done a lot of work for products and for services. You can see some of this below, the Hershey Company, ConAgra, Comfort Keeper, Edible Arrangements, and she'll talk about some of her successes today. She does have incredible expertise in media relations, writing and editing, social development and event planning, and she really has results. So she's increased national brand awareness, and she really comes to us with a good background, and she's been working with us for about 3 months now with Core Cube. We welcomed her as an employee a little over 3 months ago. And so without further ado, Jenny, are you with us?
I'm here. Thanks so much, Marilee. And I am so excited to present and introduce my expertise and really my passion for PR during today's webinar.
Can you maximize your screen better than that, or do you have it maximized at the top? Because I can still see it.
I have it completely maximized. All I can see is the slideshow from my screen.
Okay, fabulous. All right, please take it away.
Sounds good. Well, to begin, I want to define the differences between PR, advertising, and marketing. And essentially, as are paid placements, and as you know, you can find them in media outlets, on the web, and really all around us. And public relations is different because it's free editorial coverage. It's also found on TV, in newspapers, online, over the radio, but also word of mouth. So as our position to tell consumers how wonderful you are from your perspective, and publicity is really third-party applause. And I really wanted to dive into some examples from my previous work for edible arrangements, as I mentioned, or as Marilee mentioned. For those unfamiliar, they design fresh fruit bouquets. So here you'll see 2 national product placements that were secured by public relations efforts. And at the top, you'll see what I did to prepare for Edible Arrangements Father's Day media outreach. They really wanted to introduce and launch their NASCAR collection. So I made a media list of national outlets and top daily newspapers and the reporters that write for them that specifically cover food and gifting ideas. And this targeted list and outreach, really that was coupled with pitching and follow-up and researching, it resulted in this great national placement on foxnews.com and other places as well. But I wanted to point out what's so great about it is, at the very beginning it introduces Dad. It talks about the product. And at the end, you can see it even links to the website. I mean, that's just an A placement. It has a great feel and vibe to it and directs you straight to where you can purchase. And then down below, here's a placement with hungrygirl.com. Hungry Girl, she's been a national food correspondent. Her name's Lisa Lillian. She's worked with Redbook, Good Morning America, and now she has a deal with the Cooking Channel, which is sister stations with the Food Network. And I guess you would say she's most well known, however, for her daily e-blast that reaches nearly 1 million people a day with her Better For You recipes. And so this placement does two things. First, it offers a great PR positioning for their new products surrounding Easter, but also their Hello Kitty pineapple shapes that you can purchase. But two, it also opened up the doors for a future relationship. We were actually able to leverage our relationship from this placement to, partner with them for the holidays, for Christmas. And we were able to establish her as an expert source on fruit dips for their brochure. So it was really an even trade. There was no money involved. We provided the vehicle of the brochure to all of their hundreds of thousands of consumers, and she provided the expert source and really made it pop. So here I wanted to also take a look, though, at what advertising and marketing examples I could provide. And this just shows that, well-designed ads and web banners and marketing materials really serve their purpose when consumers are searching for you and they're looking for your information. So here, I guess, in a few bullet points is how marketing and PR really work hand in hand. And to summarize, in this age of digital communications, really everyone, all companies are producing some sort of media. For example, you can share news with ads, with marketing materials, newsletters, and so on. And I personally recommend implementing both together to really have consumers find you, but also hear about you, which strengthens your brand's credibility and presence. So next, I really wanted to discuss, how to build a relationship with the media. And first steps, you need to get to know the PR tools that reporters are already familiar with from our industry. And to start, a well-crafted press release really provides the foundation for a successful publicity campaign. When you're writing a press release, the first paragraph should really answer the who, what, when, where, and why in the upfront to keep reporters engaged. And can also really present a formal tone to your announcement. To follow up with that, a pitch letter is used for media outreach, and it's really recommended for following up with reporters after a press release has gone out. And it also can be a very useful tool to do some grassroots outreach for support when you're reaching out to those that you really want to get behind you. It's a little informal, but it's also a great way for them to have a direct contact back to you just by hitting reply. And then lastly on this slide, media alerts are a great tool. They're tailored within a pitch letter, and they really formally share event details, press conference information, and photo opportunities for reporters and photojournalists. So there's a few more things I thought were helpful in building your media kit. Fact sheets and bios are always great to have prepared. And a lot of times when you're doing follow-up with a reporter that you know may be interested in the topic, and you call them, they may not have time to talk for 10 minutes, 15 minutes about your story, so they request a bare-bones outline of info to incorporate into their story and can position you as a resource right away. And I also wanted to mention that internal key message documents are crucial when many people from the organization are communicating on behalf of a campaign. They, help to keep a message consistent and objectives clear and can be used for years to come, for positioning and making sure everything is clear from beginning to finish. I also wanted to, end with events and social media networks as well. Events really help to create a news tie with your announcement, and it's no secret that social media networks are emerging, and marketers and public relations professionals are using them to enter new markets and really reach consumers in a new, relevant way. So like I said, no matter what tools you choose, hopefully your messaging is reflective of your brand and always consistent. So like we said, you're probably wondering, when will your story be published? And I'm telling you from personal experience that, public relations is a long-term strategy that can really produce game-changing results and really bring a, a focus and personality to your brand. And I do want to warn and give you fair warning that there's never a guarantee that a reporter will run with your story and publish an article right away. And really, media relations, which is a key component to any PR campaign, is successful when, over the course of time, strong relationships are formed with journalists. And that's why you would never want to lean on your advertising with a publication to secure coverage, because essentially that kind of is not what journalists want, or they probably know who already supports their publication as well. And the end result is really, for when local and national news strikes, you really want to be that influential resource that's at the tip of their tongue, that they know can complete their story. So the best ways to really secure this positive coverage is to learn about the outlets and the reporters that you want to send your information. I recommend, reading their work and recognizing the common themes that they write about. And you can even offer to be a resource or volunteer a guest column, and just be cognizant of their deadlines. So now we'll touch on what actually makes a story newsworthy. And when developing a PR communications strategy, you need to aim to ask yourself the following questions just to make sure your content is actually relevant. So you'll want to, think and digest about who will want to hear about your news. Where does the story belong in the newspaper? You need to know what the different sections write about, and make sure that your topic is timely. And to kind of better explain, what the human emotional factor might be about your news, you might want to consider how you're being a first at something, whether it's a building, product, or a person within your industry. You might want to share surveys or changes that are going to be happening that will make news and affect people's lives. And if you have evidence or solid facts to back these things up, that's wonderful. But at the end of the day, you should always be presenting yourself as the expert and as the go-to for your information. And I also wanted to share a few award-winning campaigns that I really think that you'll find interesting, and they highlight the different types of campaigns as well. So to highlight what an event can do for a consumer-driven campaign that's designed to increase awareness, let's take a look at how the National Peanut Board transformed Grand Central Station into Peanut Central for a special event. So the members of the National Peanut Board set up shop in New York City's Grand Central Terminal to kick off a national effort to rebuild consumer confidence in the products that they produce. To give you a little history, consumers were really scared by the salmonella outbreak and really stopped purchasing peanut products in total, even though this FDA had approved the peanut butter and the peanut products that were not affected. So these manufacturers joined the farmers in the terminal, where they handed out samples of their products and answered questions about the products, and really did a thorough job during a 2-day event explaining their industry, the nutrition and culinary information, and provided cooking demonstrations and appearances from noted chefs and athletes that really brought home their key messaging and really brought the safety issue back to the table. And the results of this outreach, being in New York City and all the different things that they incorporated into their communication, it was picked up by trade and national media. It was really a great awareness campaign. Also, to kind of focus on a product launch, last year, Absolute Vodka introduced the Stoop Life movement. And that was introduced in Brooklyn for their Absolute Brooklyn, which was a limited edition flavor created in collaboration with Spike Lee. And the tactics that they used were blogger and media relations, social media outreach, and local partnerships with events. And to give you a little bit more insight to Brooklyn, they have a large blogger population, and they really were able to kick off the entire campaign at the Brooklyn Blog Fest. And Lee stood up and introduced a new website, and bloggers were able to contribute their Stoop stories to the site, really engaging and making it fun to watch your own stories grow on this in kind of an organic way. And then also, you know, they incorporated a conference check presentation that donated $50,000 to the Habitat for Humanity in the New York City area. And there I've listed some of the other things that they incorporated. But really, the way that they were able to launch this in such a big way, the campaign drove growth and brand awareness in the cluttered flavored vodka market, and it actually contributed to record sales with 18,000 cases sold in 12 weeks, and it earned more than 550 media placements. Bloggers are a great way to get information out quickly, let me tell you. And I also wanted to show you, which is probably very relevant with this audience, local media outreach can have the same impact as a national campaign as long as it reaches your audience. So those targeted pitches and the right reporters can result in increased awareness and ultimately sales. And so to the left of your screen, you'll see the San Antonio Business Journal article that announced the expansion of a local cinema. Alamo Drafthouse Cinemas actually served as an anchor to a lot of retail developments. So this news sparks interest with consumers who are interested in the new theater, but also businesses and retailers who are looking for expansion opportunities. And to your right, this story highlights what makes this tile store different. It's a great example of positioning and how to build credibility, because these store owners are not printing this themselves, but rather the reporter is sharing to the public. This is a great place to check out. And so finally, to really tout how All for a Good Cause can help your campaign, I wanted to show you how Jim Beam expanded its existing military-focused cause marketing program to really connect with consumers in a meaningful way by using social media. The effort actually allowed the target consumers to nominate a soldier to win a once-in-a-lifetime experience at these amazing events. And the campaign also added a personal touch by transforming Jim Beam's Facebook wall into a virtual Toast to the Troops page where consumers could write toasts to service members. So you're not only hearing the message through the media, but you're also getting an opportunity to voice your own opinions and your own support through their Facebook. And the results, they speak for themselves. They had a great placement with the early show, Fox and Friends, Men's Lifestyle, Sports and Military websites and blogs. They all wanted to get in on this action. And also, there were 400 service member nominations submitted online as well. So next, it's really important to know what to do if a reporter calls. If you're conducting local outreach, it's really important that staff know that reporters may be calling, and if that happens, here's all the details that you need to know. You'd like to get the reporter's name and organization, and always get their deadline, because they may be working within hours. So that's very important. And find out, what kind of questions he or she will be asking. If you have the time, it would be completely appropriate to schedule the interview for the next day, or just later in the afternoon once you've had time to prepare yourself for the interview and to really rehearse those questions that you might want to go through. Also, you can evaluate the situation and determine if there really is anything to be gained by doing the interview. It may be a waste of time if you think that they're going to be focusing on a target that doesn't really match up with who you're trying to reach. But if you do decide to go through with it, you want to develop 2 or 3 message points that you hope to convey throughout the interview. And remember, there's really no such thing as off the record. Anything that you say to a reporter might appear in a story. So if you want to kind of take a break when you're speaking with a reporter, what you want to do is just say, I have all that information, but I'd like to give it to you. I've got a great way to email you some information or put you in touch with another resource. And that might be able to kind of take the interview back to where you want to be talking about. And just always try to be a resource and offer them something without trying to go into a tangent that you really don't want printed. And also, like we mentioned before, provide reporters with any written support materials that you've developed, fact sheets, press releases, and those other materials we discussed. And you can actually use these as notes and prepare yourself for the interview. And like many other situations, you always want to keep your answers quick and to the point and on track. And, as with every campaign, you want to determine the return on the investment. And we really wanted to show the ways that you can measure the value of editorial coverage. And it can be summed up in these 3 points. Essentially, PR takes the value of advertising and it builds upon it based on an enhanced impact. So editorial, as we said, is a third-party opinion, and their impact is considered 3 times that of a paid advertisement. So, for example, if you have a half-page ad in the local paper that costs $500, then that same half-page worth of editorial in the same newspaper would be valued at an estimated $1,500. And so, of course, to wrap up our discussion for what we've prepared, we want to show you that Core Cubed can help build your PR and marketing campaign and really get them working together and get the results that you would like. And again, I want to emphasize it's more of a long-term strategy, and you really want to massage and get to know the reporters in your area and the different outlets that are able to communicate your message and be a vehicle for your brand. And for those that are new to Core Cubed, we also provide website design and development, and we offer strategy and branding as well for existing brands. So now we would like to open it up for your questions, and if anyone has anything that they'd like to discuss, we'd be happy to do so now.
Jenny, thank you so very much, and thank you all who are attending. I do have a question here. I have several questions, actually. Let me see if I can bring those up. What are some strategies that you recommend for organizations that have an established marketing plan but are looking to integrate a more assertive PR campaign?
Can you repeat the beginning of that question again?
What are some strategies that you recommend for organizations that have an established marketing plan but are looking to integrate a more assertive PR campaign?
I would always assess, who you're targeting that you want to reach. So if you're really looking for the consumer, integrating your marketing materials, with PR, using the media. If you already have Facebook and if you already have Twitter or LinkedIn, I would always refer back to your materials when you're in the field and when you're doing other things. But overall, if you're looking for increased national exposure, you can certainly use your strategy that you've put in place to kind of communicate in a more public relations sense. I hope I'm answering your question, but I would focus on expanding your audience, to the media to channel the audience that you're trying to reach. So you want to do the research and find out which trade publications and what print magazines, resources of that nature that can actually be your voice.
Yeah, very, very good answer, and I'll follow up with that by sort of focusing on, I think the most important thing when you're doing any type of strategic marketing, which really should be all marketing, is to determine who your targets are. And it's once you determine who your targets are, then that follows through with how are you going to reach those targets. And when you look at how you're going to reach those targets, that's where media relations comes in. If you have a good story to tell, and I think that's one of the keys. As people who are attending this particular webinar, we are giving you for free one of our publications, and I'm going to take back the presentation component of this right now and just show you a little bit of what we will be sending you by email as an attachment. This Tell Your Company Story and Build Third-Party Endorsements. It's something that we put together that really talks about what is news and what makes news. And I think that's the most important thing to think about when you're trying to integrate a public relations campaign into an established marketing strategy. Because the big thing is that you really have to determine what makes news. And Jenny's gone over a lot of these things, but if I can make this a little bigger so you can read it, how to generate media coverage, this is one of the things that is really hard for people to understand, because anyone who has something happen within their company, they might get very excited about the fact that it's happening within their company, but there really are some criteria. The media is the important component of this, and the media is the one that has to decide if they think it's news, if they're going to pick up your story. I mean, Jenny gave wonderful examples of how they created some event or some process or some buzz around a product, and that's really what you are wanting to do. And this is some of the ways that the media likes to get information of what makes it interesting to them. If there's conflict, if there's that's basic good drama, bad guy versus good guy, big versus little, those kinds of things. If there's prominence, if there's well-known people involved or well-known businesses. And she mentioned the local angle. If it's occurring in the media's backyard, that really does have to happen for it to be a local angle. And then how many people does the news affect? So these are all things to think about. Public relations is really a science and an art combined. So you really need to have the ability to look at what is within your marketing strategy and have that ability to look at that and then pull out what would be newsworthy and how can we position what we're trying to accomplish in a way that it is newsworthy. And then after you've determined that, you know who your targets are, you know what your key messages are, and then you're trying to determine how do you best get that information out so that it's going to resonate with people and so you're going to have interest. And that is really the biggest thing, in my opinion, that helps get media coverage. So I'm going to answer some more questions now, and then but you all get this document, but I did want to go over that. It seemed to fit here. The second question here, and Jenny, I'll let you take this one, is who in the media do you send press releases to, and how do you obtain their contact information? Is it email, fax, video, press release?
That's a great question. I always recommend the more personal, the better. You can go to your local newspaper, and sometimes you have to dig, but the contact page often has the newsroom. So you can find phone numbers, extensions, and usually email as well. But if you just call the actual paper, you're going to be routed to the news desk. And you can always say, hey, can you point me in the right direction? I have a great new business release. I've got some news. I think you might be interested. Is there anybody who you think I should speak with? But before you do that, I would have somebody in mind. So researching the website, researching the business section, the features, news, just the top stories of the day, and find out who's writing what. A lot of newspapers these days have actual bloggers on their staff that might write about specialty topics such as family and friends, home and gardening, children, those kinds of topics, and even business. So you can find exactly who might be interested in reading your announcement. So having those names in mind, and then if you call the station, call the newsroom, and you can get their information or even leave a voicemail. But just be persistent and follow up, but don't follow up too much so that when they get your call, they're like, oh, hello. But that's how I would start. I would just do your due diligence, do your research, and look for those contact pages, and just feel free to pick up the phone and give them a call.
And I'd also like to mention that we at CoreCube subscribe to a service that is fairly expensive, and it is the same service that the very largest public relations firms in America subscribe to, and it does give us access to over, gosh, probably, they say over 300,000, but contacts for people divided by region, divided by topic, divided by industry. So, and it also allows us to know how that person wants to be contacted. Is their preference email or fax or phone call? So, so there are tools that, just like in any industry, there are tools within the public relations industry that that help the professionals determine how they're going to go about campaigns and how they should, who they should contact and what's the best contact way to do that. The other thing I wanted to mention is the process. Now, Jenny went through the process of what's a press release, what's a pitch, what's a fact sheet, those types of things. But it really is important. The two things I think are the most important. One is it has to be news and newsworthy. So whatever you're trying to get the press to find interesting, it does have to be interesting and relevant based on some of these items that I've got listed here that you're seeing on your screen. So it has to answer the so what question first. But then the other thing that's important is follow-up. I can't tell you the number of times I've had people say, well, we sent a press release and nothing happened. Well, follow-up is crucial because it's with the follow-up. A, you're building a relationship, and B, if it is someone has a desk that's stacked full of all the latest news of the day, you never know when it might be right for your news to become news. I mean, if you have a, someone gets, some major person dies, or you have a war starting, or, something, a revolution someplace, obviously the news is going to be focused on something else. But by following up, then you will make certain that your story does at least come back in their mind. And the other thing I think is important in terms of media relations is that what you really want to do eventually is to, or at least in a lot of situations, is you really want you or your contact or your business to be the expert, so that when the news comes in, like industry related or topic related, that they do think of you. So eventually you want to become a resource for them, and you want to keep your name out there. We didn't talk a lot about integrating the media coverage and your hits with your website, but that's the other incredible positive of having media coverage, is that you can take links to that coverage. Jenny mentioned linking back to the organization, which is really a powerful SEO tool, but you can also take media coverage, have a press center on your website, and you can actually showcase, because you've got third-party endorsements, you can showcase and extend your brand by using that as an internet marketing tactic as well. So lots of ways to integrate media relations in with marketing strategy. So, Jenny, we do not have any more questions. So unless, I think I've answered all of them. Let me just, there may be one more in here. Media just in press releases too. Okay, here's another one. How often should stories be pitched? I'll let you take that one too.
Sure. If it's the same story, try to keep it, there might be a time frame. It depends on the story, essentially. So if you have a story that's kind of centered around a key time peg, it's a holiday or if it's summer, fall, winter, spring, those kinds of things. You should be pitching before that time happens. You want to make sure you're ahead of the game. So if it's summertime and they're featuring all the new sunblocks, you want to be the sunblock that they think of in May and April for their June and on coverage. That's just an example. But essentially, the story, once they've heard it and you're following up, and there just may not be the interest there for that. So you need to reinvent a new angle, a new way that consumers could use your information and the way reporters really want to ship it. So I would say give it a couple tries, with the different outlets and different publications. That might be your best bet. But keep a rolling idea, a rolling list of ideas that you can be pitching to the media. One thing I wanted to mention earlier as well, there's different contacts at each paper that make the decisions. Editors are usually at the top of the list. They're the people who are going to be doing the assignments, and they may not actually have a lot of pieces written themselves in the paper. And the reporters are the ones carrying out the work. But a lot of times they pitch their editor on a new story. So you might want to reach a different reporter. If they're not going to write about your topic, there might be somebody else who does. And so again, I would just keep researching your opportunities, really. So it may not be that the story is wrong. It may be the wrong contact for the story.
One more question. Our agency has an innovative new nonprofit we want to get the word out about. Are there any special approaches for that? That we believe there will be residual benefit to our business by getting the word out about our charity. So using a cause-related public relations, basically, Jenny.
Yeah, I mean, anytime that you have an opportunity for others to support a group or, whether it's just, manpower, power in numbers for a certain cause, or if you're raising funds for something, the media are typically interested. And there are a lot of ways to submit your stories through online websites. Local newspapers often have portals where you can upload your press release and you can share your news that way. But then you can also do letters to the editor or, opinion pieces as well on how to change people's perceptions or how to get people to understand where you're coming from. Maybe you're taking the opposite approach that many people take, which happens to be pretty good news. If everyone's for something and you're offering a different solution, that might be a good way to present your organization. But nonprofits are great ways to, I would say, to approach the media, because typically it's seen as less self-serving. You're trying to help others. You're providing something.
Good answer, Jenny. We've also had really good luck with photo opportunities for charitable events. So the media does seem to like to take photos, particularly if you're helping someone or there's a particular visual that's going to occur as a result of this charitable event. So, and I always say if you can take advantage of an opportunity, for instance, if the press does want to photo something, come and do a photo event, make certain that you've got people in your logo wear and you've got banners up, and there's a lot of subliminal references to your business in addition to the charity. So that's another aside I would mention for that. So, and I do think that now does actually conclude our questions. I don't see any more from our audience. So thank you so very much for attending today. And Jenny, thank you so much for doing a fabulous webinar. And we will have our next webinar in August, and we are going to be, it will be hosted by Will Chatham, who is the web manager at CoreCubed, and we will be talking about what type of content you can change yourself and what type you need a professional to do. So please join our CoreCubed events page if you are interested in upcoming events or in listening to and watching any of our past webinars. And thank you, Jenny, and thank you so much, everyone, for your attendance today. Have a great day. Goodbye.